in the video. Libertarian style bullshit video. Stefan Molyneux. So this video was on Bitcoin, and he didn't really say anything. It's just the same old jargon, about how the dollar is this and the dollar is that, and fiat currency this and fiat currency that, as if somehow dollars have been a problem throughout history. And they really haven't. In day-to-day transactions, they've worked really well and have been really reliable. And so all he's griping about are the rest of the paper in the universe, all the other notes that aren't dollars. And he's blaming the dollar for those and implying that it's been printed, and so that's why we need this Bitcoin. And all these guys are, right? It's all these libertarian audience, and they all want to just evade taxes. It's just they're all little selfish, weaselly cunts who don't like democracy because they can't win the argument. They're selfish, idiotic, Nietzschean attitudes. Most people are smart enough to know they like to have regulations about what kind of car you can drive on the road, and they like to have regulations that might stop people from overfishing, making whales extinct, and then making lobsters extinct, and then making tunas extinct, and you need some sort of regulation to control that kind of shit. Most people can understand that they want polluters to be free to pollute all over the world. So this is just all such crap, and it's kind of disgusting to have the argument. Well, I'll make a little speech. What the hell? Before we start, just a prefacing speech, right? Because these guys are implying like they're for a fair game, like they want to make things like that's their goal, is to create like a really good, fair game, and the invisible hand will take care of everything. And we, like I said, a little bit of logic, and that invisible hands aren't going to work when it's you against the empire, you against Attila the Hun. You're going to lose. Okay, he's got a big giant army and the best armor and the best swords and the best weapons and the biggest horses, and if you pick a fight with him, you're going to lose. And we all know that, right? We can all figure that out. So let's not pretend that he's for a fair fight. He just wants the winners to be a class, and he suspects that he'll belong to that class. And so, rational people, I think, could say, look, we have a system. We can, life isn't fair. Nature isn't fair. But human civilization can do some of this fairness thing. It can try to even up the game and make for a good match. We've done it. We've demonstrated our ability to do it. We make nice, fair football games and nice, fair soccer matches and nice, fair boxing matches. We do it all the time. If steroids becomes a problem, then we pass some laws saying, okay, we really don't want our athletes to all get cancer, so let's not do this idiotic nonsense. And so we do something to correct it. And it's rational, and it's reasonable, and it's sensible to do that. That's what something with intelligence should do. And but these people don't think it's achievable. They don't think fairness is worth it, and they don't think it's achievable. One of those two things anyway. And it's obvious nonsense. They're just selfish cunts, and they think they're going to be they're going to be Attila, and so they're going to do okay. Their people will be okay, and the things they care about will be okay, and so they're willing to play the cheaters game instead. And a lot of this comes down to what do you want for an answer to a problem? You want a stupid, simple, crude answer, or do you want something a little bit smarter and a little bit more complicated as a solution? Really, if you have a water problem, do you think that, somebody just shows up and says, build a fire, it'll evaporate the water? Yeah, and it burns your house down. Come on, now you want to be as smart as you can. You don't want to do the simplest thing, you want to do the best thing. And these people just don't want to play that kind of game. So their answer is, let's go back to evolution, and they think they're going to be the Schwarzeneggers. I think that's laughable, because there's somebody out there who will rape an older woman It's always once you set them loose, there's somebody who'll go one step lower than you will, and that's the truth of it. And it's whoever will go the lowest, whoever's got the most backstabbing knives in their pocket. They're the ones that are going to win the game, and that's just the truth. So if you get into that kind of war and you have any kind of elegant sensibilities at all, you're a fool, okay? Because you will lose. But then, like I said, they're just too stupid. They're just too stupid. So anyway, so yeah, we can all say, look, the government's broken. We can fix this. No, that's not. They don't want to fix the system. They just want to break the system so they can cheat the system. They're schemers and connivers. They've made a living stealing old ladies' money or ripping somebody off somewhere, so they know how to do it, and they think they have an advantage. And you can see that the fairness, what rational person, how do you reasonably admire birthright as a principle? Like it has some sort of, like this is something we should, iconize, make permanent in somewhere. That we should say this is a cornerstone of our fairness principle is birthright. I mean, it's preposterous. It is the most ignorant, the crudest of perspectives, and everybody should be able to see right there. They want to. They're going to liberate us, by creating a more established, more powerful, classist, elitist birthright system, a system that protects inherited money even more, and that's somehow to my advantage as a kind of fair cop kind of guy, a fair fighter. Man. So, yeah, so right there, this is all fail. So, let's hear some of the crap. This specific propaganda crap. So here's some guy, some South American guy. Oh, I deal in currencies, blah, blah, blah. Bitcoin is a nice augmentation to our gimmicks and our shystery. He probably sells gold and, just some guy who makes a living being a middleman. I mean, that's what this is. This is probably a big audience full of middlemen. They don't do anything real. They just rip people off on transactions.
And you're the financial expert, so I'm just speaking out of my armpit here, but I view it as a win-lose situation. Good money drives out bad, bad money drives out good. Bitcoin is what money should always have been, but technologically was not able to become.
Right. So somehow money should be some fake commodity made in an electronic system that has no intrinsic value. Okay, a currency. That speculators can drive up or down depending on who wants to corner a market or who wants to take advantage at a particular time. And at any moment, some honest retailer could take in 1 million Bitcoins and then go to sell them, and they're worth a half the value. And so what rational retailer would want to play with a currency subject to fluctuations like that? I wouldn't. If I was an honest businessman, why would I want to deal in a currency that I take it in one form and I sell it in another form, and I'm not getting an honest value out of it? Nobody. It's just a gimmick. It's just a pyramid scheme. It doesn't have, like I said, because it was bastardized to do two things: be a commodity and be a transaction currency. It was ruined. Because it's good at neither. It's not value intrinsically. It's not wheat. It's not oil. It's not corn. It has no intrinsic value. So it's nothing as a commodity. And because it's a speculator's playground, it's ruined as a transaction currency. The last thing you want people doing is speculating with your transaction currency. It's the hoarding argument again. I mean, I don't want to have to keep going over this, but it isn't that complicated. There is only $1 trillion worth of actual money in circulation. The rest of the paper is in the form of IOUs. Okay, that's all. They're IOUs. They're not paper. They're not dollars. The dollar is quite secure, and it is quite sensible for the dollar to lose value over time, to have a slight inflation built into it, because you don't want people hoarding a transaction currency. So you don't want, when stuff gets a little dicey in the economy and there's a little bit of inflation, the last thing you want people to do is shove dollars into their mattress. I mean, you should be able to understand that.
Fiat money is slavery.
So when he says fiat money is slavery, he really means banking. Fiat banking. It is not fiat money. Again, there's only $1 trillion of currency in circulation. The banking system doesn't use currency. It uses IOUs. It uses stocks, bonds, and pieces of paper, debt notes. Okay, notes that have your name on it and say I owe. Okay, credit card accounts. That's the fiat money. And what he's basically saying is you shouldn't be allowed to have a credit card or any other mechanism that's dependent on money that isn't in a bank. You shouldn't be able to spend any money into the economy that isn't in somebody's deposit account somewhere. The implications of that, you might be able to understand logically, is that if money's going to be borrowed and there's a bunch of bidders for the borrowed money, if people are going, I'll give you 2% interest, and the next guy's going to say, no, I really need the money, I'll give you 3%. And the next guy's going to say, I'll give you 4% because I'm desperate, I need this damn money. My grandmother's sick, I got to get the business going, I need the money bad, I'll give you 6%. You can understand there'll be a huge bidding war if there's a very limited supply of surplus capital. And clearly there's a negative side to low interest rates, and the negative side is that people borrow too often for too stupid a reason. Now, the existence of uncollateralized loans, I don't have much respect for that. That should be a speculator's market. That shouldn't be protected anywhere. And there's all kinds of bad loans issued. But again, that's a different kind of regulation. To call it fiat currency is a lie, because it's not the currency that's fiat. It's the banking system that's fiat. I mean, banks decide to give out these loans. That's who's signing the agreement. And I'm saying most of the loans issued are collateralized. That means the house deed goes in before the money goes out. And the uncollateralized loans are mostly business loans. And again, they shouldn't be insured by anybody. They should be stock market loans.
Let's remember, it's buyer beware time again, because we've got some freedom.
Hi, this is
We got some freedom, he calls it.
Jose. I'm from Mexico. I actually handle investments in fiat and in...
I'll pass over that. And turn it back on when it's at the right point. But anyway, so it's all this fiat currency. Fiat currency. Again, it's not, the currency isn't fiat. The banking system is fiat. The banking system creates IOU paper. It doesn't create currency. It doesn't create currency. It's just a huge, huge difference. So the dollar's secure as long as the government doesn't have to print it. But obviously the government is now so far in debt that it may well have to print it, because it won't have a revenue stream sufficient to pay bills, and Bill will have to print
what money should always have been, but technologically was not able to become. Fiat money is slavery. Fiat money is debt, it is slavery, it is immoral, it is predatory, it is warmongering, it is evil, it is monstrous, it cripples the poor, it destroys human lives.
So listen to all that propaganda, like it's Adolf Hitler. So, but again, it's not the dollar. The dollar hasn't been printed. As much as people want to keep saying it, it hasn't been printed. What has been printed is a bunch of claims on dollars. Things denominated in dollars, okay, that say you are entitled to $50 in an IOU. And the problem is that claim doesn't have any collateral. There's nothing to base it on in case it defaults. So if the person can't pay the claim, there's nothing to take as an asset. So the IOU is of no value. That's what all the stock market is made out of, essentially, is paper that has no real value. Okay, it's a claim on 1%. It's a claim on pennies on the dollar. If you own a stock and it says $100 worth of stock, its real value, if it had to be liquidated in an emergency, for the real assets of the company, is probably $1. It's that bad. And that's the problem with the system. There's an inflated, the value has been inflated by the number of claims that exist. But they're not in dollars, they're in the form of notes, bonds, stocks, other paper that are a claim to entitlement.
It sells off the innocent. It is a monstrous, vampiric, predatory, evil, disgusting system, and I do not want to see it coexisting with a free market currency.
Right, so he thinks that the Bitcoin is a free market currency. Okay, when it's a no market currency. It's an unregulated currency, and it's been demonstrated to be, hugely erratic in terms of its usefulness. Again, if I was a retailer, I'm not going to accept a currency, okay, for which there is no accountability, where I could end up, like say if you're a retailer, right, even now, you take Bitcoin, somebody made an argument that there's no exchanges. No, there has to be exchanges, because if I'm a retailer, I don't have time to put my Bitcoins on a market somewhere and say, I'm selling Bitcoins. Okay, somebody just paid me $1 million in Bitcoins. Now I have $1 million of Bitcoins. And every day the price is changing. So I got to sell these things because I don't want to be stuck with some Bitcoin that's going to be worth $400 in a week. And I paid $500. The ones I got are $500 each. So I got to unload these things. I want to be able to transact. I want to be able to get rid of these things for what they're worth, not for, what some pyramid scheme bullshit made me get stuck with. And they're not going to want the hassle of an unguaranteed currency. They're not going to want a currency they have no dependency on. So they have to unload it. And if they have to unload it, they're not going to sit there and go through this process of, okay, bring me cash for your Bitcoins. Because I can only accept cash. If I accept some other form of payment, then I'm losing 3 or 4% on the deal, because I got to pay the credit card company, I got to pay PayPal to make the transactions. That's no good. So you got to bring me some kind of real money, all right, to buy my Bitcoins. That's the reality of it. So obviously the business doesn't want to go into the business of selling Bitcoins. It's just going to go to an exchange that will accept the Bitcoins and give you cash for them. And so the exchange is going to take its percentage. So again, it's not a rational alternative to cash. People are only promoting this because they're playing it as speculators. These people are just shysters trying to get some old lady to buy a bunch of gold when they know it's going to go down in the short term.
That is not actually money, but what people do with money. And that can come to either of the two worlds. It depends on what you want to do with it. I think that it's a better way to make things better future.
These are all so coherent. Libertarians are so reasonable and rational. That was such wonderful babble.
The economics.
From a practical standpoint, diversifying your portfolio, I understand that, but there is going to be a confrontation between freedom and tyranny, and I sure know which side I want to win.
Yeah, freedom and tyranny. I know which side I want to win. Environmental destroyers, pig farmers, old lady rapers, It is what? The tyranny of what? The shysters and the middleman. The tyranny of oppressive regulations that require us to be decent and fair-minded in our interaction. To be upfront. Not to have brass knuckles hidden in our pocket with our 9mm. I mean, this guy has nothing to do with anything called fairness or the beautiful expression of freedom. The freedom to suck is all he wants the freedom to be. He wants the freedom to be a motherfucking piece of shit.
Yeah. Get the next question because I think we're a little low on time. Thank you.
Let's see what the
Something
next
that may
one
go
is.
along with your answer just there. I feel like a common criticism of libertarian thought is that it's more of a thought experiment. We can't apply it in the real world.
Yeah.
You know, get out of your bubble. And I feel like that's also a common criticism of Bitcoin, that we're all just early adopters on some big speculative bubble.
Yeah, well, it's a proven fact that that's who's bought most Bitcoins. Most Bitcoins haven't been used for the purpose of making a transaction, doing a real transaction from one person to another person. Most Bitcoins have been merely speculators buying Bitcoins. So, yeah, that's kind of bullshit, isn't it? Yeah.
And I see there's huge merchants that are accepting it, so I think that there's already some answers to that, but it still is a persistent perception about that we still need to apply it better.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, to the uninformed, everything which gains value quickly is a bubble. Just using the word bubble is not an indication of any knowledge. And people who compare Bitcoin to tulips, I know where I'd like to put those tulips. I mean, tulips was so obviously a fad. It's a goddamn plant. You can't even smoke it. So, of course that was a fad. This is different. This is friction-free money. This is the exchange of value with no...
I mean, friction-free money. Again, you know, these notions that that's how this works is just silly. You have to somehow monetize a real commodity. You have to say, I have sheep, and I'm going to convert them into Bitcoin. Well, the only way you can convert them into Bitcoin is somebody who can make a Bitcoin, who has a Bitcoin, is going to say, yes, I'll give you a Bitcoin for the sheep. There has to be transactions before you get to the transaction, which is the joke of this thing. And so, you know, as a mechanism, it has a lot of friction in it, because people again aren't going to use it reliably if they can't get rid of it reliably. I mean, taking it is one thing, that's easy. But disposing of it, getting rid of it, getting money for it is another thing, and that does have friction. Lots of friction. Lots of possibility for catastrophic failure.
overhead. This is bypassing the entire financial parasite class. I mean,
I mean, quite obviously you can't bypass the parasite financial class when you have to buy your Bitcoin with cash. That means you'll have to go somewhere to get cash, won't you? So, duh, right? Duh. I mean, yeah, it'd be very nice if that's how it worked in the real world, but I'm just saying you can get a prepaid card and do the same thing, and that would be a much, I mean, again, what do we want? Do we want a speculator's currency? Do you want to try to create another gold, another commodity that's both a commodity and an exchange currency? Or do you want to create an exchange currency? An exchange currency doesn't need to have a value. I mean, something owned.
I think traditional libertarians have been saying education, politics, education, politics, education, politics. That's how we'll take down the state from the inside. We'll win. We'll take it over. And the Bitcoin people are like, hey, look, I just bypassed the whole damn thing. You don't need to do any of that stuff. And
So he thinks that someday Bitcoin could be taken by, say, some American retailer, and somehow it wouldn't be taxed, and somehow there wouldn't be records of who used them or any of that stuff. So he's selling some delusional lie that somehow you're going to escape your income taxes or you're going to escape sales taxes by using Bitcoins, and you're not going to do that. It's not going to happen.
like, oh man! It's like me going into a fight with Muhammad Ali with a blow dart. I mean, it's annoying. Muhammad Ali trains, and I've just got a little poison dart with some frog poison on it.
So I mean, this is the kind of rhetoric, right? I mean, I got this really great solution. It's going to fix all of our problems. We'll be able to evade our taxes. So again, it's just like those people who are selling the plan, you know, where, oh yeah, you can get around the IRS. Paying taxes is voluntary. And so they would do these whole things. They'd have these whole spiels just like this. The guy would walk around with a microphone and tell people how you don't have to pay taxes. It's voluntary. So anyway, pathetic. So we'll go to the other video now. Let's see. Where that one? It was this one. Where the hell is it? This is Bitcoin. And that's Don't Fail. That's Beardy Man. Bitcoin. Oh, there's 2 windows here. No, that's a Wikipedia page. That ain't gonna help any. Where's the Alex Jones thing? Come on. I know I had it here. Oh, there we go. So, Global Awakening with Alex Jones and Stefan Molyneux. Alex Jones is hilarious because he talks about how Americans are fat and lazy. And he's fat and lazy. Anyway.
He is bothered by anything you're doing. There's a great quote from Churchill where he said, "You have enemies. Good." That means that you have stood up for something sometime in your life. And the fact that people are being attacked for pro-free speech, for pro-gun, for pro-freedom, for pro-trade, for anti-tax.
Yeah, don't take it like, oh, I better give up. Take it like I'm affecting something.
I'm onto something here.
Alright, so he was reading some Forbes thing or something because Forbes doesn't want Facebook people to be all these gun nuts, and so obviously he's talking about NRA money and blah blah blah, but they don't want to tell the truth, so they just lie about it. And you know, so it's this whole idea of what should social networking be about? Should it be about propaganda and how much money you can spend on propaganda, or should it be about people and all this other crap, blah blah blah. So that's a whole nother argument. But so they're just saying that, okay, these tyrannical people are coming to get your guns and all this whole argument just because people think there ought to be some kind of sensible regulations regarding people's use of guns. I mean, personally, it doesn't make me feel good if I go walking in the woods and there's hunters back there with guns. That doesn't make me feel comfortable or like I'm free. It doesn't make me feel free when some drunken bubba can be walking around my house with a fucking shotgun. And it certainly doesn't make me feel free if I had kids that I'd have to find out whether, you know, my kid's going to go play over at some other kid's house. I got to find out whether they have a gun in the house. And whether or not my kid can have that kid as a friend, just because, yeah, why the fuck? I'm not gonna read about how my kid got shot in the head for no good fucking reason because some asshole can't responsibly take care of their gun. So I mean, the fact that people just don't really like the idea that you think you deserve an advantage. Like I should have a fight with you about your dog shitting in my yard, and you should show up with your holster on, or with your 9mm sticking out showing me, like, you better not fight with me, you better just take my shit because I got a gun and I might blow your face off. And this is the way you want to socially interact? Yeah, we all should get guns and intimidate the fuck out of each other. This whole advantage thing is just so lame. And then they go in the whole spiel about how now, if you all want to give up your guns and then the cops don't have guns, that seemed to work in England for, a long time. Certainly worked in Japan. So you can see cultures where that works. I would go for that. But really, it's not about taking your guns away. It's just saying, here, you have to be responsible for this shit. Okay, we're going to have a few regulations, like you can't be insane. You can't be walking around threatening people and still have a gun. Certain things you can and cannot do. And these people say that's taking their gun away. So that's the lie of it. It's all propaganda. It's all scare tactics. Why? Because they want to be irresponsible. They don't want to be obliged to be civilized.
Bothering bad people. That's what good people are supposed to do. We're supposed to bother bad people. That's the whole point.
Exactly my point. So I hope I can bother you, because you are a bad man. Yes, you are. You're a bad man, Stefan. You're a lying, propagandizing, opportunistic scumbag.
So I think it's great that there's a lot of flack being sent up. If there wasn't, we'd be peddling in a basement in the dark.
Yeah, so you could just make the same argument that I guess the government should feel really good that it's pissing assholes like you off. I mean, if the assholes weren't upset, then we wouldn't be doing our job. So they can make the same inane argument. Yeah, that's just such a good argument. No, it's not.
Doing nothing.
But it does show what authoritarians they are. They're now sending out hundreds of thousands of letters saying, well, you didn't turn in your semi-automatic handgun, or you didn't register it, turn it in or we're going to SWAT team you. That article.
Oh, you mean if you don't obey the law, we're going to enforce the law on you. Yeah, so if you don't obey the law, we're going to enforce the law. What kind of sense does that make? What do you mean they're going to enforce the law if we don't obey the law? That's such a bullshit. That's not the function of a government to enforce the law if we don't obey the law. I just can't wait till he dies of something.
It's linked on red on infowars.com.
Yeah.
They're trying to pass another law to expand gun confiscation. They're banning basically gun manufacturing in California with micro-stamping. They just shut...
So, micro-stamping. Oh, you mean guns would be coded and people couldn't own a gun without taking responsibility for its use and its history. Horror, horror.
Down the last lead smelter for lead bullets. I mean, yeah.
I want people, especially young people, lift the curtain, see the gun. See the gun that is the state. You know, like there was this very energetic Occupy movement where they were outraged at the bankers, right? And they wanted, and they had all these crazy socialist nonsense because, you know, they're academics.
They tried to hijack it.
Yeah, I got
all right, socialist nonsense, hippie. And you aren't a bunch of what? You know, I mean, really, you're just the same kind of teabagger kook balls.
But what they did see, which was a terrifyingly beautiful thing for the young to see, what they saw was 3,000 activists being arrested and 0 bankers. In fact, the bankers got...
You know, what should the bankers get arrested for exactly? Oh, there's protesters on our sidewalk. Arrest us. What would they get arrested for exactly? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. You have to change the system, you have to work within the system. That's just the rules, and the people don't want to obey the rules. There's rules about protesting. You can't violate somebody's property, you know, private property and all that stuff. So here, the protesters are violating your private property, something you obsess about, something you would shoot them for in your libertarian utopia. You would shoot them dead, and yet you're saying, see, look at the horrible government. It's protecting the private property of the bankers. I mean, you know, this is just such a twisted perversion of reality that these guys are spieling.
Hundreds of billions of dollars in bailouts.
And Homeland Security simultaneously directing it in 35 cities. Yep. They're being scooped up at, 2 a.m.
Yeah, and good. I mean, I'm sorry that it happened to them, but at least they're seeing what it is that they're facing, and they will be... Hopefully, if they've got any brains in there.
Well, of course they have no brains. They had no agenda, okay? They're a bunch of people who basically gave free pizza to homeless people to show up to their protests. I mean, yeah, come on.
Their skulls, they will not be tempted to go to the state for solutions when they see the state paying off the people who prey upon the poor and the middle class and who sell off the unborn in debt and bonds. They will see them reward.
Right. And who did that? Ronald Reagan. Who did that? George Bush. Republicans are advocates for this world you're complaining about. Ron Paul loves the idea of the rich owning all the money and renting it to the poor. And you just want to do it in a way where the poor have to outbid each other to borrow your money. Yeah, so you don't even want to have to bother with the waste of time that is buying a stock. You just want to get some assets and then force the poor to rent from you. And just sit on your ass and collect rent. And say that your rent collection is somehow different than taxation. Yeah, somehow rent is completely different than taxing. Yeah, right.
Those people and arresting their brothers and sisters in a revolutionary movement. Hopefully then they will turn away from the state, because all we need to do is lift the veil. Evil can never win, because the moment that people see it as...
Evil can never win, because the moment that people see it, they'll have a monarch for thousands of years. Oh, monarchs aren't evil. Silly of me. I forgot. They're really cool. Monarchs are great.
Evil, they reject it. Evil always has to...
Well, that's right. As soon as we understand...
Yeah, I mean, look how it really... That whole principle really worked out for the American Indians, I tell you. I mean, didn't they totally win in the end? Wait. No, maybe they didn't.
The New World Order is a private corporate system that's anti-free market, seeking to shut down competition through the state monopoly combine.
The state monopoly combine. So it's like a big machine. It's a state blah, 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 blah. I mean, this is how people argue what should be our rational gameplay fairness rules. So instead of getting to something like, well, gee, do you think birthright is a sensible way to judge where people should be on the starting line? Like we should have huge head starts based on what vagina people fall out of? Like that's how we should initially judge people, not by the color of their skin or the content of their character. We should judge them based on what vagina they fell out of. Yeah, that's the alternative that wins. Yeah, that's the sensible thing to do. Pathetic.
As soon as those two things are connected by the right wing and the left wing, it's game over. It's game over that George Soros is basically tax exempt, General Electric, Google, Warren Buffett, his company's $400+ billion of bailout money the last 6 years, while he lost.
Yeah, well, the more important thing is that the people who own Google, the people who really are profiting off of these corporations, are the ones paying 15% tax, while the guy going to work every day is paying 35 or 40. Yeah. Well, you get what you subsidize. Duh.
For higher taxes on the middle class, because he literally is shutting them.
Right, so it's the middle class that has the too high taxes. Again, you just keep perverting the argument, and we know that they would destroy the middle class anyway, because yes, if you can destroy the wage base, if you can force the lowest to go lower, you can drive the middle class out of existence, because some, two poor guys are going to say, I'll do the same job that one guy will do for the same money. And they know that. They know there's no middle class in the world they would create. There'd be owners and serfs, and that's all there would be. We're already heading there. That's why I guess they're sort of gleeful in how they argue all this stuff, is because they know they've already won.
On his competition while feeding on us like a mosquito. I mean, it's game over for that piece of crap the minute that's understood.
Yeah,
right. I mean, this is the millionaires talking, right? Yeah, right. Well, millionaire and wannabe crooked shyster kind of millionaire guy.
That guy who goes to buy a joint in Colorado has, in that purchase, paid more taxes than all of General Electric.
Yeah.
Again, but yeah, why should a corporation pay taxes? The corporate money, the corporation can't go anywhere on the money. The corporation doesn't do anything. The money goes to people, and it's the people who should pay income taxes. So as soon as you convert the money into income, that's where you tax it. Duh.
They make up the rules and they exempt themselves. That's the whole point of power, is to inflict rules on others and escape those.
If we abolished all the other taxes and there was still a business tax, this guy would be against it, right? So, I mean, it's the hypocrisy. He uses the example of corporations not paying enough taxes when, he'd be against them paying taxes. Okay, he just rather they pay it because he knows that's be converted into a sales tax, and it'll be a regressive tax. Business taxes are regressive taxes against consumption, and so he prefers that though as opposed to an income tax. So instead of taxing billionaires, he'd rather tax consumers because business taxes are just consumption taxes.
Rules yourself. If you could convince everyone else in the world.
I mean, a business tax is just a VAT tax. To put it in European lingo, that's all a business tax turns into. The people owning the company, the CEO, all those people aren't going to take a cut in salary to pay the business tax. No, they're going to raise prices.
To not be a thief, your job as a thief would be totally easy. Nobody would have any locks. They wouldn't protect anything. They'd just assume they lost it or mislaid it, right? The whole purpose of ethics historically has been to convince the masses to be good so that they're productive, which makes them fatter cattle to be preyed on by the rulers.
So he says he's against rulers, but how would he stop rulers? How would he inhibit the acquisition of the ruling class? How would he prohibit or prevent or discourage or limit the acquisition of ownership by the rulers? He doesn't have a single policy that would do that. Not a single one.
Rulers give us ethics to make sure we don't compete with their evil. It's got nothing to do with...
Yeah, and he wants to just say, let's all be evil. That's the game he wants to play. Let's all be crooks and shysters and creeps and see how low we can go. And that's being a human being. We shouldn't hope for anything better. We shouldn't hope to be able to make a fair game, to recognize that there's such a thing as a disabled person, or to recognize that you know, there's some work that's worthy of getting done and work that's not worthy of getting done. That trying to connive people out of their money is not the same thing as making something of value, like a horseshoe or something. And that we shouldn't make any distinctions between these things. That we don't have the capacity as rational beings to tell the difference between stealing some Alzheimer's old lady's money and curing cancer. We can't tell the difference.
Them actually believing, you know, thou shalt not steal is a foundational ethic. I don't believe anyone has ever said, well, but you see, taxation is a form of theft, and therefore it's a...
But rent isn't. So just remember, taxation is a form of theft, but rent isn't. Yeah, right.
Violation of one of the 10 Commandments, and therefore...
That's like Ron Paul's sign. He says, don't steal. Government doesn't like competition.
Government hates competition, yeah. This is the whole problem.
So again, it's stealing to sit there and have, like, Social Security, hates Social Security, right? Because all these billionaires on Social, there's a whole bunch of Social Security billionaires, right? Social Security millionaires. You know, even though the top amount you can get is capped, even though most people are getting less than $1,000 a month, no, it's the most horrid, evil, nastiest thing ever invented. Yeah, why? Because I guess what you know, the real evil of Social Security from this guy's perspective is that it gives old people enough income where they don't have to go work for him. You know, where we can't use the old people to drive wages down even further. And he probably wants to sell dog and cat food. You know, and of course we know that that's what old people ate before Social Security.
Of ethics. It's invented by, and I'm an ethical guy, and I believe in universal ethics, and I believe in virtue. But
the problem is they use it.
Yeah, right. You know, it's a joke. So what's the virtue in the bigotry of birthright? Where's the virtue in that? My kid is automatically better than you because I'm better than you. How do I make that into a virtuous principle? A rationally virtuous principle. My kid deserves a head start because I'm better than you.
To make us simpleton chumps and naive while they are rapacious.
Yeah, I mean, only idiots rob banks. If you want to be a good bank robber, own a bank. That's the way. That's the way.
Exactly. But to make your point on it.
Yeah, well, you can't even demonstrate that, though, because a lot of little banks have had a real problem, you know, because of how the economy is getting more and more overextended and all of that stuff. So it's not really a great racket unless you're a big bank and you're too big to fail. Well, then it's a good racket.
Well, it's just so we're always told as kids, you know, like don't steal, don't push, don't use force to get your way. Negotiate, use your words. That's what they always say, right? And when you see something like internationally, like what's happening with the Ukraine, what do? They threaten economic sanctions. They threaten ostracism. They threaten to cancel travel visas. They threaten all of this kind of stuff. They're using their words, not their guns and their bombs, because Russia has power. Russia has...
Yeah, like I said, and what would this guy do if you trespassed on his apple orchard and stole an apple? Yeah, what would he do? What a fucker.
It's right that the age of European warfare ended with the invention of the nuclear bomb. But with us, we get guns and we get jail. With us. So with each other, with rulers, they all deal with each other differently.
Yeah, I mean, there's 300 million guns in this country. How many people owning one of them are in jail? You got a number?
Diplomatically, and they negotiate, and they threaten things and so on, but they don't threaten war that much in the West anymore. But with us, we get guns and we get jail. And this is the...
Well, whatever. That's enough of this gun shit. But you know, that's the fanaticism. Again, like you're gonna fight the king, you know, with your pitchforks. You know, like guns are somehow going to do you any good if you get yourself into a real hot war with government. And it's not going to do you any good. It's just going to give them license to give cops bazookas, and you're going to lose. So bravo for escalating the war, morons. But that's all you've done. Just escalate how intense the warfare gets. You know, create incentives for them to have to do this spying and to do all the other connivery to get their advantage back. Because you can't accept the fact that you're not going to be stronger than them physically. And so just pretend you are. I mean, these people would. They would just go all the way. There'd be no end to how they would escalate the violence. Based on some notion that they have a right to step beyond civilization. They have a right to reject it, to live off it like a parasite, and to feed it nothing. Disgusting. To pay no respect to the fact that they lost the fight. Anyway, they couldn't win the war of words, so they pick up a gun. It's that simple. So anyway, till the next time, and such.